My good friend from California is one of the more moderate Democrats. I appreciate his friendship. In this case, he's just dead wrong. We had 10, 12, 14 million illegals in this country before this president came in, and we hadn't been able to clear them out in years, and we hadn't been able to get them vetted into the jobs, including the 2 million jobs in agriculture that my farmers say they want. This president and this vice president have allowed more than 12 million additional illegals to come into this country, and they come disproportionately, not from Mexico, as you know, they come from some of the worst places on earth. I have been at the border. I am a border congressman with over 80 miles of border in my district, the busiest land port anywhere in the United States. And you know what? Every time I go there and lead a trip to the border, what I see are Venezuelans, Afghans, Syrians, Russians, and the list goes on, Chinese. And yes, Mexico's our ally, but Mexico is an ally that violates international law by allowing these people to come in without visas. If you're Chinese, you cannot go to Turkey without a visa, unless you say you're going to America and have no visa. From Turkey, when you come to Mexico City, you cannot land there and not be immediately pushed out without a visa, unless you say that you're going to the United States and have no visa. Then they sweep you all the way to the border. That has to change. And for the mothers who lost their children here today, I will tell you, it would have been avoidable. It would have been avoidable if we'd had the mass deportation of people illegally here. Dwight David Eisenhower was one of the most moderate members that has ever served as a president, but he was also the commander-in-chief, and before that he was a five-star general, and he understood that laws need to be enforced. We are not enforcing the law. We have over 22 million illegals, and we still have shortages of farm labor, as Mr. Carrera would say. Well, we have that because nobody has been told, if you want to come here, we'll give you a visa to come here to be a farmer. And by the way, that's not a green card. A green card is a pathway to citizenship. My colleagues on the other side of the aisle, for my this is my 24th year I've served here. For 24 years, they've talked about wanting reform. Every time they want a reform, it's like that cockamamie thing that was going to come out of the Senate, where you could do 5,000 people a day, and then if the president objected, you could slow things down. Yeah. That's not a solution. Now, my colleagues on the other side of the aisle are calling this a stunt. This isn't a stunt. This is the fourth year of an administration that has willfully allowed people to come here with no vetting whatsoever, again and again and again, and they know it. And the border czar, now presidential candidate, was the first person assigned the job and hasn't yet done it, just as she was the last person in the room before the withdrawal from Afghanistan. So I will tell you, I'm going to ask you a question, Sheriff, because it's pure law enforcement. It is something I'd like to hear your opining on. In my district, we had a hearing just a week ago. We had one of our mothers explaining how her child came to be confronted by illegal adult males trying to force themselves onto a school bus because they'd come illegally. And if you can come illegally in the U.S., why can't you also illegally get onto a school bus and make them take you where you want to go? In my home district, they couldn't figure out where a law was broken. Can you help me figure out how something so wrong can, in fact, not find a crime to charge these people with under state law?
Well, I can't answer to the law enforcement in the area, and we support law enforcement, and I know that you do as well.
I love my DA. She let me down. I'd like to like my sheriff, but I can't figure out how you could not come up with a charge. I know one thing. If I try to push my way onto a bus, a school bus, somebody would figure out a way to charge me.
I would figure out a way to charge. In California, in my county, we would figure out a way to charge. There's laws for a reason, and we have safety for those reasons, and when you don't enforce the laws, safety is no longer in existence.
To all the brave parents who came here to talk about their losses, the only thing you can tell by many of us up here on the dais that are not, I tend to be a pretty laid-back member after so many years, and I don't yell and scream. But I am animated today about your losses and the fact that they will continue until we change how we do business. And it won't be with the people across the aisle until we can actually bring them to understand we can't have 22 million people here. We will need a mass deportation. The priority, of course, should be criminal aliens. It should be people from unvetted. But it should be those 1.4 million who have already been ordered deported, none of whom have been sent out. Mr. Chairman, thank you for your indulgence. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from North Carolina is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My objective in my 5 minutes, which is not much, is to hear from the moms. But before I do, I just want to take a trip